Hi, I'm Ed Yaw. At County College of Morris, we believe all citizens need to be informed about the important issues that affect their daily lives. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Barnabas Health, County College of Morris, connecting learning and life, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship, and by MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey.
This is One-on-One.
That's good acting, yeah.
I get that a lot. I go to Atlantic City all the time, like, are you the guy? I go, no, I'm not.
This is one you can't afford to miss.
They thought that I wouldn't survive it, but I knew I would.
I'm Steve Adubato. We're here at the Tisch WNET studios with Dr. Bill Baker, President Emeritus, WNET. Bill, let me ask you something. You are on the faculty over at Columbia University, Fordham University, right?
Fordham and the IESE Business School in Barcelona, Spain, and Juilliard in this building.
Yeah, in your here at Lincoln Center, in your spare time. And also, by the way, can you mind if I plug your book?
Oh, no, I don't think it'd be a wise idea to plug my book. It'd be embarrassing.
Again, yeah, but it's called Every Leader is an Artist, How the World's Greatest Artist Can Make You a more creative leader. You've written so many books on media, on leadership. And the time we have, I just want to ask you, what is the premise of this book?
Well, the premise of the book basically is that being a great leader doesn't mean following a simple formula. Just like being a great artist, and we use artists as a metaphor, great art takes everything an individual has. It's not just a few pieces of your being, it's everything. It's your creativity, it's your ability to communicate, it's your vision. All of those elements that go into being a great artist go into being a great leader.
And Bill Baker, again, before he became the leader, one of the greatest leaders in public television history, in so many ways here at WNET.
I wish.
Yeah, but you had a career, a very successful career on the commercial side. Real quick, can you do a minute on the Oprah stuff? We were down in Baltimore, Group W.
Right. I was the president. Well, no, I then wasn't president. I was manager, general manager of WJZ, the ABC station owned by Westinghouse in Baltimore. I had come to that station as the new manager, and they had a little party for me, and my wife was there with me, who's a nurse, and we were, kind of young people. We were in our 30s managing this TV station. I was in my 30s managing a TV station in Baltimore, and Oprah Winfrey was there, and she had just been let go from the station to do the nightly news. She was put on the weekend, and she was, of course, not happy about that demotion. This was by, somebody who was previous to me. And we were at the party, and I met her, and my wife met her, and my wife had a really interesting conversation with her, and my wife came over to me, and she said, I know you want to start a talk show. I'd been a very successful talk show producer in Cleveland before I was in Baltimore. And I wanted to kind of bring that skill because talk shows tended to be the things that changed TV stations in my experience. Good ones. So I wanted to do a powerful and important talk show in Baltimore. And my wife said, why don't you think about Oprah, that woman Oprah? She kind of wears her heart on her sleeve. She'd be a good host. I said, that's really a great idea. So I get all the credit for discovering Oprah, but it was really my wife, the nurse. So I went to Oprah and I said, Oprah, I want to make you a talk show host. And she said, I'm a news person. I don't want to be a talk show host. And she started to cry and was all upset. And she said, I want to just do the news. And I said, look, Oprah, if this works, then I think it has every reason that I think it will work because I know how to do this and you're a natural at it. You'll have a more profound effect on the people than you ever would being a news person. And none of us, including I'm sure Oprah, had any idea that she would be as successful as she was. We knew she'd be successful, but not to that degree, and we are very proud of that.
Absolutely. Bill, in the time we have left, I want to ask you, obviously Oprah has moved to her own, literally, her own network. In the world of expansion, how do we stay relevant?
Well, I mean, it's easy and it's hard. I mean, first, I don't have to tell you because you're one of the few examples that figured all this out. And that's why you're still here, because
well, we struggle with it.
You know, but you did figure it out. I mean, the old world of television, and I think in some ways it's sad because we were able to get these huge kind of Walter Cronkite boxcar numbers in the era of my early part of my career, you know, when you would do a television show and half of the city would see it that day and talk about it over the water cooler or talk about the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite because everybody saw it and you had what we called a common campfire. It united in some ways America. It gave you a starting point. Here we have a level now of media fragmentation. And that's good because you can do so many different things, but it's bad because where the heck is the truth? Where, you know, where does anybody go? You know, and people are just reinforcing their own prejudices. They're going to these little narrow things that are only theirs. So you have to be omnipresent everywhere. The BBC is the best at doing that in the world. Never forgot talking to the Director General of the BBC when they first started saying, I said, what's your goal? And he said, our goal is to be everywhere. You know, I want to be on your cell phone. I want to be on radio. I want to be on television and everything. You know, I want to be on the internet. And they've done it really well, better than anybody else in the world. The good news is that technology is helping us, so it's making it a lot less expensive to do some of these things. But still, nobody's really got it fully figured out in the sense of being able to do it in the way we do in public television with philanthropy or minimal amounts of money. It takes huge amounts of money to make this work, and that's the scary part for substantive media that worries me, and I don't have all the answers.
Before we get out of here.
No, before I would get,
ahead,
I want to say something that happens actually in this own building. I teach the only business class at the Juilliard School. I was asked to do that by Dr. Joseph Polisi, the president of Juilliard. I do that as a Fordham professor and a Juilliard professor. And I have students from both Fordham, performing arts students from Juilliard and Fordham, both in my class. And the conclusion is that, you know, let's say if you go to Juilliard, you're the best of the best. Hardest school in America to get into. You've been, say, practicing the cello 5 hours a day since age 3, and you're ready to graduate from Juilliard, and there's nobody or almost nobody of your skill level anywhere in the world. But what happens? There's no job. The Berlin Philharmonic already has all of the cello, or the New York Phil has all the cello players they need. What are you going to do? Part of it has to be that you have to, as you just said, you have to understand it all. You have to understand that the performing arts is a profession. You have to understand the business of the performing arts. You have to understand how to be an entrepreneur. Have to understand how to sell and promote yourself. All of these things suddenly come into your repertoire that you never had before, that you never knew existed.
Without being overly philosophical or unnecessarily philosophical, people who say, I just want to be an artist, I just want to be a performer, I just want to be a broadcaster. That's a beautiful thing. I just don't believe I have, or most of us have, that luxury, because the last time I checked, if we could not figure out how to bring, Moyers told me this years back, Bill Moyers told me, listen, 'cause I think I might have been complaining about fundraising. Can you relate?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it was 20 years ago, he said, that's how we get to do what we do. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, it was, well, one of my students told me at Juilliard, she said, all I want to do is play the piano. That's what I want to do. And I said, I really respect and love that. But I said, do you want to also eat? Do you want to pay the rent? I said, so therefore we have to figure out how to do all of these other things too.
Bill, listen, I don't want to turn this into a love fest, but it's too late for that. Thank you, not just for spending this half hour with us, and more importantly, everything you've done for public television, for WNET 13, for being President Emeritus, for the 20 years as President, and everything you've taught the rest of us, not just to be good broadcasters, but to be good leaders. and to, more importantly, be better people. Dr. Bill Baker, thank you very much.
You're the best of the best, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
You're looking at Amy Ellis Nutt, who is the author of Shadows Bright as Glass, the remarkable story of one man's journey from brain trauma to artistic triumph. Good to see you, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Incredible story. Won the 2011 Pulitzer Prize for feature writing. Story about, this is a book about John Sarkin.
Yes.
Talk to us about it.
John Sarkin, originally from New Jersey, Hillside, New Jersey. In his early 30s, lived up on the North Shore of Boston, married for 2 years, had a young son, a chiropractor, basically successful, 9 to 5, button-down kind of guy. And one day he's out on the golf course, and he leans down to get the tee out of his bag, and something happens in his head. He describes it like a freight train ran through his head, painlessly, but he knew something catastrophic had happened. Within days, he started to experience tremendous tinnitus, the ringing in the ears, but so loud that he compared it to 1,000 screaming baboons. He also, every sound became magnified, so he'd be upstairs in his bedroom in the morning, and the sound of his wife cooking eggs in the frying pan was excruciating to him. So he dealt with this for 9 months. And couldn't find relief, went to psychiatrists, neurologists, audiologists, anybody he could find. Finally decided to have a risky brain surgery, a surgeon who decided it was probably a blood vessel moving up against the acoustic nerve. Operation appeared to be successful, but within hours after the operation, he suffered a massive stroke. His heart stopped twice, was revived. Essentially what happens to John, and what this book is about, is that he wakes up with a completely different personality and a compulsion to create art.
So he goes from being a chiropractor to seeing the world how? Seeing himself in the world how?
Well, this was a man who also had tremendous physical problems when he woke up. He was deaf in one ear, permanent double vision, permanent vertigo, permanent weakness on his left side. This is a man who had a young son who would never be able to, toss him up in the air or play ball with him or ride bikes with him. So his role as a father, all of a sudden, was radically changed. And he was very obsessive, and he was also extremely outgoing all of a sudden. Nothing, he would say anything that was on his mind, anything and everything, and often inappropriately. So he, for the first couple of years was trying to get his bearings, but one thing that kept happening over and over was that he felt this need to scribble on things. That's how it started out, with cartoon figures and scribbles, and he'd pick up anything, a magazine, the walls in the basement, a rock on the beach. He'd even scribble on his cane, if he could, scratch things. So he realized that this was a very powerful need for him to express himself.
An artistic need.
Yes.
As we're talking, show 2 particular stills that we have of John's art. There it is, right there. So he wakes up out of this, and he has this incredible artistic ability that he did not have before the stroke, correct?
No, I mean, he liked art. He was a doodler.
But couldn't have done that.
No.
And so in many ways, and you have said this, that, interesting, the neuroscience behind the story is important. But you say that science may never really figure out the brain and our identity. May never really figure it out. Meaning, after all this research, after all this work, and you've also talked about your own fascination with the brain having to do with your own experience, because you were diagnosed with bipolar disorder. In many ways, while this is about John, it's about the brain and how little we know.
It is. Every day we're learning something new about the brain, and science is progressing in leaps and bounds. But there are always going to be limits. How do we know really the source of our everyday thoughts and emotions and our inclinations to do certain things? We can match them up with genes, We can match things up with influences from the environment. But one thing in writing this book and in researching and talking to John and his family, and also doing research on neuroscience in general, in its search to figure out what the brain is about and where the self is located, you know, what are the basic ingredients of the self. What I realized is that you can take so much away from the brain. You can be damaged in so many ways, and people vastly more brain damaged than John, obviously, and yet still have a self, still have an identity, still have a soul. So, you know, I tell a story in there about a woman in her 30s who's been hospitalized, vegetative her entire life because she was born basically just with a brain stem. No development in her hemispheres. So she basically had the most elemental functions of life. She was insensate to pain, didn't respond to people, was probably blind and deaf. And they brought in a doctor just to have her evaluated one more time. For whatever reason, he brought in a music box, and he opened the music box. And for the first time in this woman's life, she turned towards something, and she smiled. And for the rest of her life, it was just a couple of years, there was always music playing in her room. Now, this was a woman who didn't have an identity. For all intents and purposes, had no soul. She had a brainstem, but she responded to music. So we know that she wasn't deaf, at least, but she responded to music. You know, to me, you know, that's an example that the soul is there, and there can be very, very little left in your brain, and yet something about who you are will emerge.
I need to ask you this, just looking at you talking about this right now. This book moved you?
Yes,
How?
very much so. I think for precisely this reason. It's a cliche when you hear people say, you know, the resilience of the human spirit or the resilience of the human mind. But time and again, you know, knowing John over 8 years and watching how he progressed from someone who was obsessive and self-involved and just doing art and disconnected from his family to someone who gradually learned how to use his art to reconnect with the world. And then looking into cases like this woman, this vegetative woman, you realize that the human soul, the human spirit, the human mind is incredibly resilient.
This book did a lot for you, and it could do a lot for a lot of other people. It's a good read for all of us, isn't it?
I think so. I think there's a lot to be learned, that you can suffer tremendous deficits, that you can have damage, that you can have life-altering accidents, and things can happen to the most important instrument that we have, and that's our brain. And yet, you can not only survive, but in cases like John, flourish.
Shadows bright as glass. Amy Ellis Nutt, I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Steve.
One-on-one will be right back right after this. Thank you.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
There's change coming once and for all. You're getting too old till once and for all you're gone. Once and for all. Once and for all. Once and for
You're looking at Kara Lindsay, actress from Newsies. That was from Newsies on Broadway. Nominated for 8 Tonys, right?
Tony Awards.
And that was you kissing, right?
That was me kissing Jeremy Jordan, who was nominated for a Tony Award.
How good is your life?
What?
How good is your life right now?
It's pretty great.
Now, you're from Rochester, New York originally.
From Rochester, New York.
And you just admitted to me that when you were 8 years old, you knew you wanted to be on Broadway.
I did.
And now you're on Broadway.
I know. I would write in my journal that I wanted to play Belle in Beauty and the Beast on Broadway. And then when that ended, I was like, my life's over. My life's
Get
over.
out of here.
And then I make my Broadway debut in a Disney musical still with the best Disney princess ever. Catherine Plummer, because she's smart and feisty.
I'll tell everyone about the role. Catherine Plummer is the character you play. By the way, Newsies, loosely based on the 1899 Newsboys strike in New York City, right, where check this out. Thousands of homeless and orphan children that were selling newspapers to make money organized a strike when Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst raised the price of newspapers.
Right.
What are you doing, history?
Yeah, we're teaching history.
Teacher?
I mean, I hated history growing up, but I guess I'm teaching it now. But it's interesting that I hated history because every show I've done, I've had to look into history to figure out who these characters are. So it's funny.
And your character?
And Catherine Plummer, who wasn't in the movie, and it's loosely based on the 1899 Newsboys
The movie, the Disney movie.
Both the musical and Newsies. So Catherine Plummer is the reporter who writes the article about the Newsboys strike to get it out there, and when they form a union. And this was sort of when unions were starting, and it's just about, you know, sticking up for yourself and raising awareness for injustice, and they end up winning. Well, it's more of a compromise, but still they are heard by those, you know, big wigs, and it's a triumph.
Have you become political?
I guess a little
I heard
bit.
that you told our producers you see the similarities between the story here and Newsies and the Occupy Wall Street movement.
Well, I
Yes?
guess I did say that.
What do you think? I don't do my research? I heard these things.
I did say that. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, when we started at Paper Mill, it was about a year
Paper
ago.
Mill Playhouse?
Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey. That's where it started. And
Milburn, New Jersey.
Milburn.
I'm
what?
a Jersey guy because I know
You're a
these things.
Jersey guy. I worked.
What do you
there
think?
twice.
Everything comes out of Rochester?
No, absolutely not.
Go ahead. So that's where you started, right?
Well,
But in
yes.
Newsies?
Yes,
Go ahead.
in Milburn.
Right.
And it was about a year ago, and that's when, you know, Occupy Wall Street was like big. So it was just really cool to be doing that at that time, and it's just a great message that we are sharing and supporting.
You know, it's so interesting. People ask a goofy, cliche question. You know, how'd you get to Broadway? But how'd you get to Broadway?
How'd I get there?
Yeah.
It was, I guess, a lot of hard work and dedication. It's true. But I have an amazing family who supports me, first of all, because my mom wanted me to follow my dream and wanted me to go to school for musical theater, which is huge because she
Where'd
could
you
be
go,
like
Carnegie Mellon?
Carnegie Mellon University. You're good. Carnegie Mellon University for acting musical theater, and it's a great school, really great. I feel like I'm an entirely different person. I mean, I'm my best self. How about that? So
I like that.
Yeah, because they really push you to be your best, and they pull at your strings and try to challenge you in ways that you haven't before. And I learned so much. And then coming out of that, I then found an agent in New York because of them. We do a showcase in New York City and LA, and I was with, and I met with Bauman, Rodanti, and Shaw, and they're a great agency in New York, and I'm with them. And they've pushed me for really great auditions, and I got seen because of them. So it's all those things led me to where I am now. And now I'm on Broadway. And it's also by chance, because Newsies wasn't supposed to come to Broadway. They wanted, when we were doing the Paper Mill production, they only wanted to license it. They were just like doing a stage production just to see what it could be like for licensing.
What does licensing mean?
That means that they can license it so that other theaters can do it.
But not on Broadway.
Not on Broadway.
And what happened? People responded to it?
The fans, there is a cult following.
A cult following. By the way, I was going to ask you, who's Newsies for? And then you said there's a cult following.
Well, when the movie came out in 1992, it was a flop, according to the box office, but there were so many people that really clinged to the story and clinged to the music and clinged to everything about it,
Didn't
including
Christian Bale
myself.
star in that?
Yeah,
Right.
except he's really ashamed of it. And I'm like, come
Get out of here.
on, Christian Bale. He's so hot.
Wait, hold on. How do you go from giving him a shot and saying something negative, but he's hot and you have to add that? What is up with that?
He's ashamed of it, but
Oh, you got to be so political, but if the guy's hot, like if Brad Pitt says something and you disagree with it, but he's hot?
Yeah.
If you're going to be
he's good
political, you
looking.
got to go all the way with this. I'm only kidding. So who is Newsies for?
Newsies is for everybody. It's for families. We get a lot of families. We get a wide range of people. But I mean, there's lots of singing and dancing. If you love that, you're gonna be entertained, especially the dancing. They just won a Tony Award for the choreography, which is amazing, and the music. So you got that. And also the story, it's really, I mean, it never gets old, the story of injustice and people sticking up for themselves in something that's really unfair. And that's every day, that's every century that's happening, you know.
You carry that smile around all the time?
Yeah, I had braces, so I guess I got a smile.
You stuck with that.
What?
You just stuck with that smile. That's a good thing.
Oh, thanks.
It's funny, we're at Lincoln Center. We're not on Broadway, but
it's pretty cool.
This city's a happening place, and to be able to come here from any place, but whether it's Rochester or anywhere else, and to be able to succeed and do what you're doing and working,
I know,
and getting the reaction you're getting, it's pretty great. So we wish you nothing
grateful.
but the best. Kara Lindsay, actress, star, Newsies. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Wow. What
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Barnabas Health, County College of Morris, connecting learning and life, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship, and by MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and northjersey.com. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.
Since 1865, we've sought to deliver the very best possible medical care to the people of New Jersey. Today, you'll find that mission made real in every facet of the state's largest healthcare system, with world-renowned doctors using the most advanced technology and techniques, pioneering a new path to better care. We are Barnabas Health, a new name for the next great century of medicine. Barnabas Health, every day extraordinary.
This is One-on-One. Join me as we get up close and personal with some of today's most compelling personalities.
This is one you can't afford to miss.
Weeknights at 7 and 11:30 p.m. on NJTV and 12:30 a.m. on 13.